Hello there.
Who is that?
Well, I think, it always, the beginning is a very delicate time. We want to talk about getting involved with the Clone Wars, the initial process. Obviously, there's a lot of, with voiceover work, it's an audition, there's a lot of self-tape stuff that happens now, or, casting directors know your work from other shows. Can you each tell us how the Clone Wars came to you? And obviously, it's been, had a wonderful impact on your lives and your careers. Matt, what was your first introduction?
My introduction was a very simple audition that they didn't tell us what it was. I knew it was Star Wars something. That's kind of about it. They actually gave me a fake character. Tried to research this fake character. That didn't work out too well. And yeah, so I went in the booth. I remember Dave was there, and I read some copy. It was a scene with R2. And he said, whatever you think Han Solo and Luke Skywalker is, mashed up, essentially, just give me that. And so that's what I did. And then I left, and then days later they called and said, you got the job.
And what was your reaction when you found out that it wasn't this a pseudonymous character? It was actually Anakin, who I presume you were familiar with.
Yeah. I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan, but obviously familiar. I mean,
right.
Anakin Skywalker is just an iconic character. I think initial impression was, oh, those are big shoes to fill. But what I will say is that when we got into recording, I really found out that Dave and George hired me from what I had brought to the table originally. And that's, in fact, probably why they didn't tell people who this character was, because they didn't want just a bunch of copies of Hayden Christensen. So I felt freedom in that.
Right.
And I just let Dave and George direct me.
Right. They didn't want a slavish recreation, just to bring your own inspiration to it. So, James, you had already been working on the Genndy Tartakovsky version of Clone Wars, which is fascinating. So how did that come about for you, and the transition to Dave's show?
Well, it had been going on. So it's been 23 years. We started that. It came out in 2003, but we started in 2002 for the micro series of the Clone Wars, and that was just through an audition. And I had done some of Ewan McGregor's voice doubling for other things. And a lot of times it was like, things like Moulin Rouge and stuff where he had an American accent. And I thought, well, his voice with an American accent is somewhere about there. And I thought, well, that's just kind of my voice. So if I put a British accent on, will I sound like it? Wait a second. So I'm basically doing Ewan McGregor doing Alec Guinness doing Obi-Wan Kenobi. But then I've heard that lately that Ewan has been watching Clone Wars, and when he did the Kenobi series, he watched Clone Wars to get the voice back, and I thought, well, there's a weird world circular going back. But so I had been doing other things like the original Battlefront 2 and Revenge of the Sith, the video game and such, throughout the years before that. And so then when Clone Wars came back now, I met with Dave as well out in Los Angeles, and we had a talk. They actually did have me audition for Anakin as well, which was weird, and it just didn't work out at all. But
give us your best Anakin.
Well, I was thinking Hayden sounded a little like Christopher Walken. I hate sand. Sand is so gritty. It's gross. I don't like it. Padme.
You just improved the prequels about 1,000%.
So, anyways, but yeah.
We would have gone for like 3 episodes and been canceled had that been our Anakin.
Come now, Anakin, what's going on? Oh, I could use some more cowbell.
What's crazy is that Walken was one of the original audition for Han Solo in '76, for De Palma and Lucas. So that's wild. Ashley, you had the unique position of being in auditioning for a character that didn't exist in Star Wars canon yet, and cemented this legendary character for all time. Can you talk about what that was like in your initial audition and becoming Ahsoka Tano?
Yes, so similar to Matt, I went in and I auditioned for Padme, and
I did not audition for Padme.
But James did.
I did, yes.
As Christopher Walken.
I did it as Johnny Depp. Yo-ho, Anakin, where's the rum?
Okay, I realized as I said that, I was like, oh no, he's. Yeah, I just laid you up perfectly for that. Didn't mean it. I was getting to what was similar. So I originally auditioned for Padme. I knew that I sounded nothing like Padme, and I'm a very positive person, but I almost did not audition. I walked into the audition, and the room was full. Like 100 actresses were in there, all the top actresses in voiceover. I had auditioned for about 4 years, which equaled about 400 auditions that I did not get. And I lost out to all the actresses in that room. And I walked in and I was like, I have no chance at this. Like, Tara Strong and I think Gray Delisle and all the, all the names that are legends that we still see and meet at conventions, they were all in there. And so I literally walked out of the audition. I went to my car, I put my keys in the ignition, and I called my agent and I said, I'm not staying. I said, I have no chance at this role. I'm not staying. And he begged me. He said, Ashley, whatever you do not leave that audition. Go back in there because you never know what could happen. So I go back in. I wait like an hour. I'm really hangry at this point, which is why I think I had walked out. And I said, one line is Padme. And sure enough, Dave Filoni stopped me. And he was like, no, you sound too young to be Padme. But this is where it's similar to Matt. They said there's this new character. She's a 14-year-old girl. We think you might be right for her. And so then they gave me these very generic lines. And I knew nothing about the character. Like, literally, I just knew she was a 14-year-old girl. But they did tell me that they wanted her to have an Icelandic accent. Well, that was the issue.
Of course.
Yeah. I do not have an Icelandic accent.
Really?
No, it was not just in my pocket that I could just pull out. And so I did my best, and that was it. And I was like, once again, that's audition 401 that I did not get. And unlike Matt, I don't know, James, about you, but I didn't find out that I got a call back for at least a month. Like, it was a long wait before I found out that I had a call back. And in between, they said, can you please tell her to practice her Icelandic accent? So I did. I went to a dialect coach. I was so proud of myself. I thought I mastered Icelandic. Well, I go into the callback. I say the first line in Icelandic, and Dave Filoni stops me. And he says, no, can you make it sound more Icelandic? And by this time, I'm like hangry all over again because I didn't know what he wanted. And I did something that I would normally never do. I raised my hand and I said, I'm sorry, but I am doing Icelandic. I don't know what you want.
God bless you.
And well, that got me the part.
Behold,
Yes,
Snips was born.
yes. So being snippy actually paid off.
It was probably the delivery of that retort that's what got you the part.
It was. Well, because Dave wanted Ahsoka to be snippy but not bratty. And so somehow I rode that fine line between literally being snippy to him, but obviously I wasn't that rude because I got the part. But it also...
Have you ever been rude ever in your life? I don't think
know.
so, Ashley.
My parents
Your
are
parents
there.
are. I don't think he's ever been rude. Yeah,
What's
just
your
say
setup
something.
for shut
Say
up?
something rude to
Let's see
Matt.
how it sounds. Cut
How
me down.
rude. Something rude.
That was so cute.
Which is
She can't help it.
So, Mark alluded to the fact that at least two of you were walking into these parts that were people kind of doing parts that had been originated by somebody else, and that, Ashley, you were wholly original. But you were wholly original in a way that you were finding your character. At some point for each of you, you must have hit a moment where you're like, okay, I'm not doing Ian McGregor karaoke anymore. Or I actually understand who Ahsoka is now, and this is the journey that we're on. Or I am never going to be as whiny as Hayden Christensen. Like there's what was that moment for each of you? Because honestly, as a fan of the show, I felt like the dynamic between the three of you was really the heart of the show. There were so many good things about it, but you were the people who carried that series.
Thank you. I don't know, Matt. You want to start?
What's the?
Well, I'll start.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
start. Because we have talked about this, but some people might not know. In voice acting, this happens quite often. It does happen in live action too, but it really happens in voice acting where you get the part, and then you record oftentimes for a little while. You do a couple of episodes, and then they decide they don't want you anymore, and then you're recast. And that actually happened with Anakin. So there was a different Anakin in the beginning.
Yeah, it
who-
was the Anakin from the Clone Wars micro series and
Yes.
such, and the games and stuff that I've been working with. Yeah.
And he's so wonderful. He's a very, very talented actor, lovely actor, very nice guy. But it happens to all of us. I had actually been recast 3 different times, and it's heartbreaking. So Matt, we had been recording for about 6 months before Matt came in, and for me, it took about 6 months to find the voice of Ahsoka. At first, we were just reading her too serious. Like, she's in war. She's fighting in a war. So I think I took it too seriously, and I just needed to, really form these relationships. Even though they're in war, there's still love and heart and camaraderie there. And I really do think it did take Matt coming in, and I think we all really hit our stride.
Yep. I would agree with that completely. Yeah, I was actually, the first one we recorded together was some of the first episodes that you see. Now, again, the movie was actually for the original 4 episodes that were going to be the series, and George loved them so much, he said, let's turn it into a movie. And so then the ones that ended up being there was, Plo Koon was the first one. So I voiced Jedi Master Plo Koon as well. And so I was actually with Matt and Ashley doing Plo, not Obi-Wan at all. But I remember being in the room, and I was like, I got to up my game because these two are really amazing. Now, Ashley and I had been working together, but Matt he brought the level up with his just natural ability as an actor, but also just, it was just like, yeah, I'm just going to take this and make it my own. And that made us all more comfortable to do that. Because being a voice double as a voice actor, I've voiced, everybody from, Jay Baruchel as Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon, and or Fish Legs, or, well, wait a second, Doc, Michael J. Fox. Well, Doc, this is heavy. Great Scott, Marty, weight has nothing to do with it. So you spend your time, how would somebody else do this? And you have to be them. And then George gave us all that freedom to say, you be the character now. So that's where we did it. But I think the two of them really set that pace. And Kat Tabor as Padme. Kat was not concerned about sounding just like Natalie. She just wanted to make it her own.
I mean, bouncing back to the feeling the freedom to kind of just do my own thing. George specifically told me that they wanted this Anakin to be seen in a different season of his life. He was a hero, and we heard about that, but we didn't really get to see it in the films. And we wanted to see the hero Anakin. I mean, they specifically told me they kind of wanted a swashbuckling, charismatic Anakin, kind of funny and humorous at times. And so, I took those notes and kind of went after it and really. One thing I did go back and watch the films with Hayden is the cadence. He speaks with a certain Star Wars cadence. And Star Wars, I guess in general, kind of they speak that way. Like, this is where the fun begins, and I have a bad feeling, So I definitely went back and watched his performance to try to emulate the cadence of that character. Yeah.
I think the biggest compliment to the Clone Wars is when people say it enriched the prequels, which clearly it does. I mean, there's so much depth and complexity in the series that exists and I'm doing this without trying to say anything bad about the prequels, but the Clone Wars is such a great series, and it becomes more complex as it goes on. One of the things we see you guys talking to each other is this incredible chemistry you have. And often in animation, it's a casting director directing somebody in a booth doing lines they just got sent the night before. But it seems like, at least in the beginning, you guys were working off each other and could benefit from the chemistry that you all had together, and that is why the performances are so rich. Did that continue throughout?
That's the coolest thing is we are like family. We are like siblings. And I mean, it just always has been that way, I think, naturally. I feel like we've known each other forever.
We were almost always in the booth together, except in the very beginning when I had to dub over the other actor's performance, which was really tough. So the first several episodes is actually kind of half my performance. It's my voice over his performance. So it was tough, but yeah, I mean, almost the whole run of the series, we were together, and obviously that really helped, chemistry, getting to look at each other and see facial expressions and
Make fun of each other.
and yeah, so it helped.
That happened. Yep. But I will say, and to fast forward to today, I mean, we were fortunate that we recorded all of our stuff except for Tales of the Jedi. Tales of the Jedi was virtual because that was during COVID, but everything else was before COVID, and we got to record it together as a cast. And I think it's a lesson just in general, and not a lesson, but a reminder, which is so cool that we're all here in person today. I have my phone right here, but it's like, phones are great to stay in touch with one another, to text one another, but they're not meant to replace in-person connection. You cannot form the same bond that we have completely virtual. It's just not something that the two aren't meant to replace each other. Connection in person is a basic need. So just like food and water and sleep, we need connection. We need in-person connection. And so I'm so grateful that we had that, because there's no way we would have the relationship and our characters would have the bond that they do without the fact that we were in person.
It's so interesting to me because, very often when voice actors will come into the studio, or even if, we're recording them remotely, if we've got the other performances, it's okay, play it down so I kind of hear what's going on. But what you're saying is 100% true. When you have the actors in the studio together, something happens. Sometimes you find things together in the studio in a scene that you don't find when you're just playing it down. Can you think of of something like a moment, a scene where it was just like, oh, this is magic. This changed everything.
Well, the clip you showed of Mortis with Matt, I mean, that whole, was it three episodes? Really, we've kind of been discovering that through the last year doing the shows, the cons, talking about that, right? How it kind of brought us all together in a different way. There was just moments in there.
There was, when we met Dark Side Ahsoka in Mortis, I couldn't find her. I couldn't find Ahsoka's dark side voice at all.
It's because you're so sweet.
She's definitely not rude, is the thing.
She's not rude.
Oh my gosh. No, my parents are here, and they're Mama and Papa Tano. They've definitely seen me, get frustrated and lose my temper. We all, it happens to all of us. So.
No. Matt, it doesn't happen to me.
The one thing I would have changed about Dark Side Ahsoka is I wish she would have had an Icelandic accent.
As if she did. Then she would have been creepy, even more creepy.
That would have been a really fun Easter egg. Can we go back and re-record it?
Yeah, just on our own time.
Yes, that would be fun. That would be fun. But anyways, I could not have gotten the performance without James. I was really, really struggling, and James walked over, and he was like, hey, try it this way. Maybe, did you ever think about reading it this way? And because of his direction, I was able to get it immediately, but I couldn't have gotten it without his help. It's
Aw,
true.
shucks.
True story.
And
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I should have said it like Dave Filoni. Okay, Ashley, I need you to do it more like, that's my Dave Filoni impression. It's very accurate, guys. Come on.
I'm glad you mentioned Filoni, because that was the thing I actually just wanted to ask you about. You had your North Star, your George Lucas in the series, the auteur that was Dave Filoni, who had a strong vision for what the show should be and was very communicative about it. Can you, and now obviously I don't want to take away from Henry Gilroy, who was an immense talent,
Yes,
and the
huge.
incredible team that was involved, everybody from Steve Melching to the other writers. But can you tell us about sort of your relationship with Filoni and obviously this encyclopedia of Star Wars, that walking, encyclopedia of Star Wars?
How much time you got?
17 minutes and 42 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Dave was obviously, as you say, the North Star. Every episode we recorded, Dave would sit there and talk for about half an hour before we even started, just setting up the whole thing emotionally, where the whole feel of the episode was, emotionally, where each character was. And he would just sit there and talk. And George also, we have to give credit. I think that was one of the last projects that he actually day-to-day was giving notes. I know he was watching episodes of the Clone Wars and giving notes back to Dave, and then that would translate to us down in LA recording. But yeah, I mean, obviously, just completely essential. The series would not be what it is without Dave.
No, absolutely extraordinary. And a lot of people don't realize it's different in live action. You're blocking, you're giving it a performance, you're having to worry about where the lights are, what the schedule is, what the time is. When you're doing this, the animation is following your lead. So I'm curious about how you feel your performance influenced the animation, and also what your reaction was when you saw these episodes finished as well, and the way that it was all realized, which is so beautiful.
Well, the interesting thing, especially in the beginning, when they were still figuring out how our characters truly looked and talked and moved, they filmed us during every record, and a lot of my facial expressions, our facial expressions, are on our characters. So Ahsoka was not drawn to look like me. She was already drawn before I was cast, but there's many times where Ahsoka does look like me because it's literally how my face looks when I say that.
That's what your eyes did in the moment.
Yes. And to the point where literally my husband David or my parents are watching it and they're like, oh, we've seen that look before. So it's really interesting to see how they do it. So in many ways, our characters, especially Matt and I, I think we took the most liberty, especially me. Like, I was cast as Ahsoka to be myself, to bring my own personality. And so, I mean, they were watching us closely to make sure that they used our performances for our characters.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you see Obi-Wan doing this, a lot of that. It's kind of like, and that's because that's what I would deliver the lines like that. And then Matt would put his hands on his hips or he'd cross his arms, and do those, well, master, and it was like those, and then you watch it and you go, oh, that's what we did. It's so cool. So we started testing it to go, make funny faces. No, but yeah, it really is. They had cameras on us pretty much all the time.
James, when we were starting the panel, you were looking up and we had the commercial of the infamous early bird box set from '77 where they shipped an empty box because they couldn't keep up with demand for the action figures. You had one?
Yes, I'm an old man. A long time ago. Come here, my little friends. Yes. I was one of those kids, because I saw Star Wars when I was 7 years old. And then I remember the Christmas where the lightsabers came out, and they were, the red flashlights that you guys are too young. There were just flashlights that were just, with these giant D batteries, and they just put a plastic tube on them. And those were lightsabers, like the actual ones they sold. It was just a flashlight and I got one of those. And I got the Darth Vader one. I got red, which red's not my color, but I remember as a kid turning it on in the middle of the night. I snuck down and got the lightsaber. But yeah, rip off. You got a box with superhero or with the
I was just
action
going
figures
to
on
ask that. I was like, did you say they were shipping empty boxes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Oh, yeah.
literally
What?
shipped you an
It was a
empty
metaphor
box.
for something.
Yeah.
They couldn't make keep up with demand for
So
the
they just
action
sent the
figures.
box.
So you would, and
Yeah.
with a gift certificate that you would then get in April,
Yeah.
6 months after Christmas, the actual action figures. So kids would go under their tree and open up
the
these
empty
boxes,
box.
and they were empty.
Yeah.
What?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Times were wild back then. You guys, I don't know how you did it.
Well, they weren't even called lightsabers; they were called laser swords.
Laser
They
swords,
hadn't
and then it was that
trademarked it.
little thing on the arm. Have you seen those? And it was just that little stick that would come out of his arm. It was really cool. I loved it. And their arms wouldn't bend.
Well, I'd be remiss, Ashley. We're talking about Star Wars merchandise. It's improved over the years considerably, and of course, you have a very successful line inspired by your geekdom, Her Universe. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Your fashion line?
Thank you. Yes, I'm wearing a piece from Her Universe today. It's actually an Our Universe piece. So I started Her Universe back in 2010, and it was just for women and girls. So Star Wars, it eventually grew to be other properties like Doctor Who and Star Trek and Marvel, but it was just fandom fashion for women and girls because back in 2010, that didn't exist. They said that women and girls would never buy Star Wars merchandise made for them. And I'm like, well, that's not true. There's a lot of us. And so much has changed just in 15 years. I mean, it really is equal, and it's so cool to see, like, Matt's daughter, Kenny, just whacking her lightsaber everywhere and loving Ahsoka. But back then, it just, if you were a girl and you liked Star Wars, you had to just buy a boys t-shirt. So now we also have a sub-brand called Our Universe, which is unisex and for men and boys, and so yeah, it's grown quite a bit, and I'm so grateful, and I see so many people in the audience.
I was going to say,
wearing
raise
the
your hand if you
designs.
own a Her Universe piece. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. There's
Thank
just
you.
one or two out there. Yeah.
Thank you for your support. The goal was always just to create a more inclusive space for fandom. There was a lot of bullying, and I wanted the bullying to end, and I felt like if women and girls had something that was made for them, they would feel more comfortable to show up and just be like, hi, I'm a girl and I like Star Wars. And it's so cool. I mean, I look out in the audience. It is 50-50 because Star Wars is for everyone.
And Matt, you've seen the fans support so much of what you've done, and sort of literally, like the Phoenix from the Ashes, Clone Wars came back not just once but twice because of the fans, but also Timeless, which was a show which was immensely popular, which was canceled, and then the fans got NBC to pick it up for more seasons. So you've been, having this incredible fan support. That must have been a great experience, and at the same time somewhat worrisome.
Yeah, well, that's the career of an actor. Everything I've been on has gotten canceled. That was really incredible. Yeah, the fan support for that show is just really, it's wild. I mean, people were spending their own money to fly banners at Comic-Con to save the show, and at this point, it's kind of become like one of those little cult classic things where it's got 2 seasons and they're short and they're sweet, but people love it, and I'm very proud of that project. I think we did a lot of things right in that project. I still hold out hope that one day it could come back, because
You never know.
I think it will.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll be real old, but we can't get into the time machine, Just,
I was acting.
I said he's a really good actor, Ashley.
Oh
I
my
told
gosh,
you.
that
And
scared
the Emmy
me.
goes too.
Oh my gosh.
but anyway, yeah, thanks. It was,
Well,
I was gonna say, I'm like Taylor Swift. Good thing I like my friends canceled. Does anyone get that? A few people, thank you. That's my version of a dad joke.
we have so many more.
I don't know what that means.
You can explain it to us later.
Not sure what that means.
We have so many more questions, but I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions. So there's a microphone right over there if you want to line up, and and you have to
Look
do
at that.
it.
They do want to line up.
Ask your questions with an Icelandic accent, please.
If you
Yes.
could. Also, please try to fight your way to the front. That would be great.
All these years we've done this, we've never got Ashley to do the Icelandic accent at any show.
Oh
It's
my
your
gosh,
big
because
chance,
I
ma'am.
can't do it anymore.
That's the fun of it.
They
Just
won't
try
know.
it.
Yeah.
No one will
Oh
record
yeah.
this.
Come on, Anakin, let's go.
I don't know if that's Icelandic, but I'm just.
Hi, my name is Caitlin. My question is, can you do an Icelandic accent? No.
Caitlin.
No, my question is a little melancholy, so sorry. But I agree that the 3 of your characters' bond is probably, for me, the highlight of the show. And before Order 66 in the extra season, what do you think your characters' last thoughts of the other 2 were before everything started going wrong?
Oh yeah, geez. Ooh, we've never been asked that. You guys are in deep thought.
Well, Ahsoka's last line to Anakin, instead of calling him Sky Guy, she says, Anakin, good luck. Which, by the way, we purposefully did. We purposefully made her call him Anakin, because she never did. She never called him Anakin, to make a point. But I do think she was having second thoughts. This is just my opinion, so don't quote me on this to Dave Filoni, or don't make this canon. But I do think she was having second thoughts. But I think we've all been there. Chapters that we know are closed, but we don't want them to close. And so we see the good things. Maybe we get a glimmer of hope again, and we're like, maybe. But then we're reminded, no, that door closed for a reason. And I think she was trying to find those glimmers of hope, those moments and memories of the good times. But I think she knew in her heart that it's like it'll never be the same.
I think very cool question, but I think for Anakin, it's kind of like not applicable. Because I think he was already, he was so self-obsessed, I don't think there were thoughts of others except hatred and like negative feelings already towards Obi-Wan. It was already building and building. And
Want?
So his last thought was, who were you calling Anakin?
yeah, I think so. He was like, it's Darth Vader? Thank you very much.
Hello.
He was already gone.
And Obi-Wan, I've always said he's a true believer, right? I mean, you've got Yoda and Qui-Gon and all those, but throughout the whole thing, Obi-Wan is that one true believer in the Force and all that. So I think it's just like that powerful speech, you are the chosen one. He believes, he still thinks there's hope, even probably for Ahsoka to come back. And, there was an episode that never aired that we recorded there's bits of pieces of it on YouTube where Anakin and Obi-Wan are in the desert, and he brings up Ahsoka, and they have this conversation. And, Obi-Wan is just that, well, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. So I think he would. I know the nice thing, Ashley and I have talked about this, the last little scene we had in season 7, spoiler alert. I think he did feel really bad. I did. When I found out that Obi-Wan didn't really stand up for Ahsoka with the council, I thought that was kind of weird and kind of a ripoff. So, I think they had their moments there, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Den. And my question is, you talked about the chemistry that the three of you had in the beginning. But as the story goes on, you kind of go separate ways to eventually you really have your own stories. What was that like, and how did you, function as your character without the other two to bounce off of?
We don't like each other now, so it's nice.
Obviously. Yeah.
Well, that's more of an Ahsoka. Like, Ahsoka really had that more than anybody, right?
Yeah. I will say in Star Wars Rebels, when Matt and I came back to record that scene with Anakin and Darth Vader, Ahsoka and Darth Vader, I looked at that scene as it was so bittersweet because I was so excited to record with Matt again, but then I kind of felt like, okay, well, this is goodbye. So when Clone Wars was canceled, we never had that goodbye. We thought we were coming back for work, and then the show was canceled. And so we were all devastated. And we didn't know if we would ever get to record again. Everything was done. So when Matt and I got to come back for this scene, I was also devastated. Like, I was grateful for the closure, to get the chance to actually work together one more time. But as Ahsoka was saying goodbye to Anakin, really, in that scene, I was saying goodbye to Matt. It literally in my mind the whole time, I'm like, this is the last time we're ever going to record together.
I had given in to my hatred at that point.
He didn't care. No.
Whatever.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
I just want to say, you made a grown-ass man cry in that last bit.
Oh,
Make it
So
two.
thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zohair, and my question aims towards the very end of the series and the big climactic finale with like the fight that bridges from space down all the way down to the planet and how epic all that was. I just want to know what you can either answer for your character or yourselves, like what your general thoughts were of how everything ended and how everything came into place.
Well, I will say this, and I'll try to be quick. Season 2, D. Bradley Baker, the voice of all the clones, an amazing actor, and we love D, and myself were at Skywalker Ranch. We were doing some pickup stuff and all, and we were having lunch with Dave Filoni in the commissary, which is just so cool to say, right? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyway, and Dave spelled out to us his vision for what he would do if he gets the opportunity to tie it all together into the movies. And I watched it and went, well, he did it. Yeah, so I don't know what your guys' thoughts are.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was beautifully poetic. And like the ending shots of Vader in the snow, you know, so powerful and sad.
And I think, going back to your question, Mark, in the beginning, about Clone Wars now, I think should be considered part of your essential viewing as you're watching the movies. Because it really, yeah.
And you should buy it right now.
Why do you care? You don't get any money from that.
That's right, I don't. Misnomer, yes.
The gratification of it. Actually, I mean, I would even argue that probably other than the original, the best expressions of Star Wars are probably The Empire Strikes Back and Clone Wars. Easily.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, if you're introducing someone to Star Wars in between Episode 2 and Episode 3, they really should watch the Clone Wars.
100%. I agree.
Thanks so much.
Thank you as well.
Well, the bad news is we only have time for one more question. The good news is they'll be at their
sorry.
booth and able to answer other questions and sign immediately after the panel, but you have the honor of the last question, so make it a good one, no pressure.
I'm Torrance. My question is kind of more of on a personal level. Is there anyone that you might not have had the chance to meet that you'd just be totally starstruck if you got the chance to meet them?
Matt
I
Lanter.
feel like most of us have almost met in the Star Wars universe, right? Is that what you're?
No, any
any.
idol, anybody.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, we've been very blessed. You know, Ashley and I got to host, you know, everything from Star Wars Celebration to Star Wars Weekends for years, and got to interview and work with, you know, so many of these people in Star Wars. So it's been an amazing thing there. But yeah, Matt is just, you know, a phenomenal on-camera actor and has had a pretty long career, and he's worked with all sorts of folks too. But I don't know. I would have to go then to like C.S. Lewis for me. I'd like to sit and hang out with C.S. Lewis because he was a pretty cool guy.
Is there somebody you have met that you've just been completely just started?
Matt Lanter.
Well, my answer to that question was going to be George Lucas. We've had the pleasure of meeting him several times. Whenever we would do a marketing event or a press event or a season premiere, it was often at Skywalker Ranch or, you know, at the Egyptian Theater, and he was there. And my tongue was always tied. I literally could never form a sentence other than, hi, thank you for choosing me. Good to see you again. I'm Ashley. I play Ahsoka.
Yeah, every time remind him.
Like,
Yeah.
that was like, that's all I could get out. But he's that kind of a guy. He's so kind. He's so just nice and down to earth and genuinely like kind-hearted. So it's not that he was intimidating, because he's not intimidating, but it's George Lucas. What do you say to George Lucas other than thank you?
I don't know. Such a great question. This is like a maybe stupid answer. I wish I could meet myself 20 years ago and give myself the information and say, hey, don't sweat these things. Right? I think we
Especially
all
the
wish we could do that.
cancellations,
Yeah.
right?
And then try to get
I just, in
residuals.
life,
from,
general life things.
I was going to say, and get better residuals for Clone Wars. No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
kidding.
could try to do
I
that.
kid. I had to top
Or
the joke.
you mentioned Egyptians, maybe Cleopatra, so I could finally find out how these things were built, the pyramids, you know. One of the great mysteries.
Wow. Is that like your Roman Empire?
It's a 3D
Is
printer.
ancient Egypt?
Yeah, like all the time. How were the pyramids? Oh my, I can't figure it out. Yeah.
Well, we're so grateful.
Thank
You
you.
guys are
Terrible way to end the
fantastic.
panel.
What a great panel. Thank you all for being here. And now they're going to do, as the tradition at GalaxyCon, the group selfie, which they're going to line up. And if you can all come up to the stage and take a
Okay.
picture. And thank you for being here. And thank you, guys. May the force
Thank
be
you.
with you.
Come on
Oh,
up,
thank you,
pack
guys.
on in. That way, if there's an emergency, you need to leave suddenly, it's impossible. Come on up.